Okay, Simon Sensei, go for it.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much. Number 9.
And this is what I'm doing.
Oh.
So this is Trouble Brewing. What's that? Love Below IPA, but it's a very low alcoholic because I'm having a dry January.
Okay.
And you're drinking pints of Prosecco champagne, are you?
I'm drinking a glass of champagne to herald in 2021, new start.
Cheers, come by.
Number 9. Thank you for still watching, and I know there's at least 4 of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, this is you know how non-alcoholic beer is awful.
Yes.
So I went into the local off license, which has a massive kind of display of like beers from all over the world. A few Japanese beers I noticed whilst I was looking today, which look very nice, but they're all like 10%, 8% something. I was like, do you have any real nice beer that is like 1%? Because I'm dry January, and he was like, oh yeah, this is really good. It's actually a little bit more 1 point something or other, but yeah, I can still convince myself I'm having a dry January and have a couple of these.
Good. Well, cognitive dissonance is one of your words.
Absolutely, yeah. So cheers.
My grape juice is particularly nice.
Good. Right. Who's starting?
I don't know. My first question is upbeat. Is yours upbeat? Let's start.
I have to say, I've got a few kind of. That's a bit depressing. But okay, you start with an upbeat.
I will start. Are you enjoying Cobra Kai?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I when it came out, I saw that it was out, and so I started watching it on the wherever day it was, the Sunday afternoon, wherever day it was, Sunday afternoon. And I was like, I watched 4 episodes, and I was like, right, I'm gonna make this last. I'm gonna make it last. I'm gonna watch an episode, like maybe a day. Blah blah blah. Okay, I'm not gonna watch anymore. And then Darren and Todd come back wherever they were, and blah. And so the house, we were busy. Blah blah blah. So the next morning they're off doing stuff. Okay, I'll watch one more episode in the morning, and then before I knew it, I'd watched them all. And so I watched them all within a 24-hour period. I was like, shit. Yes, I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah,
just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 Mac dojos at war, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, God, are any of us watching it because of the karate?
I think the karate being rubbish aids it.
Yeah,
it adds to the charm, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few though that kind of look like they can throw a good shape. So that Hawk, he's quite a good kicker.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, there's 1 or 2 that kind of look like they're doing all right. But was it you that said, you'd think that they've made all this money for 30 years on karate, that you think they'd learn a few? But
I mean, Daniel San as an actor he could have done 28 years of training.
Yeah. But like Johnny Lawrence, whoever that is, like, he's 55, and in the last episode he was kind of throwing a few kicks about, and I was thinking, for a guy who obviously hasn't been doing that for like 30 years, then it's all right. He's kicking Joe down and throwing a few shapes. Not bad.
Show guy karate.
Yeah.
Never. I mean, White Fang. Is it Eagle White Fang?
Eagle Fang karate.
Yeah, eagles don't have fangs. Shut up. It's very well written.
Yeah.
And the melodrama is fantastic. I love the way they have like women, women fighting and the teenage boys fighting over girls.
Yeah.
It's got everything. And now a backstory for Martin Cove, which is really good.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That was his son in the diner. Did you know that?
Say again?
The kid in the diner playing him is his son.
Yeah. Oh, was it?
Yeah. It just came on. I found it on YouTube. It just came up. Yeah, and his son plays the young him. in the diner scene.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was very, very good. And the other question is, is it good for? Will it get members in? Will it get? I think will it? Is it? Will it bring karate to people's minds?
Well, Netflix have that kind of trending in the country. So that was like trending, I think, number 3 in Ireland.
Yeah.
And so you think about all the stuff that Netflix have on, and that was number 3 in the whole of Ireland. And you think, well, like the whole country's watching this.
Yeah.
For sure.
Karate community is.
Yeah, no, but for sure, like that's going to kind of raise the profile of karate, and I think anybody who, I was thinking this the other day because we're running an advertising campaign at the moment, with the hope that we get some new members in when we open up again, and like I was thinking of this the other day, like my phone has been buzzing virtually non-stop with messages.
Yeah.
And which is great, and which is kind of normal for this time. We have 2 advertising campaigns per year in September and January. But for all those dojos out there who say, oh, karate's dead, nobody's really interested in karate, and they look at say my dojo, obviously before COVID, but which is busy, and they go, oh, how do you do that? Well, like you don't have to look at my dojo, just look at what people are watching. Like trending number 3 in Ireland is Cobra Kai. I'm presuming the UK is probably similar. I'm presuming America is probably similar.
Europe
for it.
I think so that demographic of like people who used to do it in the 80s. There's a whole movement of returnees, aren't there? I've got quite a few people at my dojo who sort of used to do it, got to purple belt, came back, and sort of want to do it again. And there's a couple of people in the organisation talked to me about recently about doing Dan grading sometime this year, and they're all people in their sort of 40s and 50s who've been away from karate, had kids, come back with their kids, and then stayed. And you've got people like that in your dojo, haven't you?
Yeah. But I'd say also though the appeal of Cobra Kai though is going from kids right the way up to like people in the 60s. Rue and Ross have been watching it and avidly, and they wouldn't have been born by the time Karate Kid 1 came out.
Yeah.
So
in America, 1984, 83, 84, I saw it in America when I was living there.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a bit rubbish because I wanted Bruce Lee, but I did enjoy it very much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was one of the things that got me into karate. Well, no, I'd started karate before it came out, but I remember because I was really young, but I remember thinking people were talking about it and it being really cool in the playground, and I was the only one in the whole school that was doing karate. So kind of give it a boost.
Yeah, but, cool.
I think it's great. I think it really is good, and it just shows anybody who says that karate is dead and people aren't interested in it. It's complete bollocks. If you present it in the right way, then you will kind of attract people, because it's still enthusiastically interesting, and people can be enthused about it.
Well, yeah, I think it's part of our cultural heritage. I mean, everyone's part of the English language now. It's in the English dictionary, and everyone knows what karate is.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I just want And last question: Are you Cobra Kai or Miyagi-Do or White Fang?
I'm definitely not White Fang.
I'm White Fang.
The problem is that like what they've done with Cobra Kai is they've like Cobra Kai from which season? First, second, third season. Definitely not third season.
There's like Cobra Kai on Cove, and there's Cobra Kai original, and now there's Cobra Kai Breakaway. It's just like the JKA.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, like kind of Cobra Kai has been up and down, but Miyagi-Do, if anything, is just kind of getting a little bit kind of a bit namsy-pamsy, isn't it? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
But now that we have Johnny Lawrence, now that Johnny Lawrence is part of Miyagi-Do, maybe Miyagi-Do will be anything else.
Yeah.
Because it's the perfect yin-yang.
Yeah. I really liked it when he went to Okinawa and that Okinawan guy beat him up. like disrupted all his limbs.
Yeah.
And I mean, and he did it so. I love the way over the top. He was really miserable. Then disabled him, and then slapped. Oh yeah! I thought it was absolutely good. And I think Elizabeth Shue is a tremendous actor.
I know, that was the only disappointment, is that Elizabeth Shue was just in it for one episode.
I know. I would have loved Elizabeth Shue to stood up and do like a big, terrible moshigiri and knock someone out. Would have been great, wouldn't it? It would be great if Elizabeth Shue had actually been doing karate for 30 years.
Yeah.
Like the fifth dan in Bang Soo Do could knock someone out. That would.
Yeah. I know that, because the rumors last year was that, because obviously the end of the season last year was Ali with an I accepting the friend request from Johnny Lawrence, and so the internet rumor was that because she was a surgeon, the character is that she's a surgeon. And so the internet gossip was that she was going to come back, and she was the one who was going to perform the surgery on Miguel, and that's how they could get back into it.
That would be wouldn't it?
Yeah, and so in the first episode of season 3, there is a scene where they say, "Oh, the surgeon has come in from out of town to operate," and this woman turns around and it's not her, and I was like, "No, hang on a minute, that should have been Elizabeth Shue." So I'm wondering if she agreed to do it and then went, "You know what? I don't want to get into this. Just put me into the one episode and that's it."
Because it would be a contract thing, because from her point of view, it's probably perfect. But I mean, there will be. I mean, as soon as we finished watching it, we all thought, "I want to watch series 4 now."
Yeah.
So there will be one, won't there?
Oh yeah. No, they've started making it.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, okay. So, my turn. Okay, this is not. I hope it's not too depressing, but
okay.
I wanted to talk about it. That's not going to be too good. But I was watching a documentary today about Robin Williams.
Right.
And it's called Robin's Witch. So is it a good documentary? No, I found it really interesting because I loved Robin Williams. I thought he was amazing, and it was about actually what he died of. So he died of something called Lewy body dementia. So he didn't know at the time, and it was only kind of discovered in his autopsy. But it's called Lewy body dementia, and it's when a certain protein attacks your brain, the synapses of your brain, and certainly for 2 years of his life, he basically had this undiagnosed, rapidly kind of growing kind of brain disease that was making him act irrationally. Well, it made him do loads of things: insomnia, paranoia, kind of motor neuron control. He had a shake of his left hand. He wasn't firing on all cylinders, and he kind of knew it. And he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, early onset or early stage Parkinson's, which he didn't have. It wasn't that at all. It was far more severe, and it made him kind of anxious and depressed, blah 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 blah. And it probably either it caused him to commit suicide, or he realized that's what was happening and committed suicide because he couldn't face.
That's what I heard. That was a story I heard.
Yeah. But it wasn't.
Did he leave a note or something to that effect?
Say again?
I think he left a note or something to that effect. I might be wrong. I haven't. No. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's horrible. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
horrible. Did you ever meet him? No.
Yes, of course I did. Yeah.
Okay. So that was the first question. Did you ever meet him?
Yes. Do you want the story?
Yes.
Okay, so one day I'm in my house, the phone rings and my agent says, "Robin Williams in town, would you want to support him for 2 nights at the Punchline Comedy Club in Hemel Hempstead?" So I said, "Yes, please." So I went there. It was a secret gig, first night, invited mainly like comedians and like celebrities, so it was terrifying. And Robin Williams was ridiculously nice to me. Like often, I supported Steve Wright on tour many years around that time as well, the American Steve Wright. And he was okay, but he wasn't friendly. You know, he never really to me. Robin went straight, "Hello, Simon. Knew my name. Shook my hand. How you doing?" what I'm going to do, Simon, is I'm going to go on first, do a bit of stuff, then you come on and do your stuff. Just nursed me through it. It was wonderful. Like, you know, so basically, which he didn't need to do because he was trying out stuff to do for the Princess Trust. He was doing like a stadium thing. So he was working out material. And he was just great. You know, A, he knew my name. B, he didn't, you know, he actually warmed up the crowd for me to warm him up. I mean, I was totally unneeded, really. And especially because it was like a celebrity sort of, you know, comedy crowd. So it's quite hard to do. And so that's how I met him. That's the only time. I think I met him once at a comedy store. He turned up at a comedy store one time. But he was a very nice man.
Yeah.
You know. So it's a mark of someone that famous to actually, you know, he liked comedy. You know, he actually paid attention to me. He said something nice about my act, or I like that bit you did about that. You know, which is really quite unusual, really.
Yeah.
So you know, brilliant to meet him. And also that moment when, you know, I was quite good in them days, thinking I'm the guy, you know, like blew everyone away. Really? Not just like famous. Yeah. There was a comedian called Tony Allen, who I loved, but he was an anarchist comedian. And he started heckling Robin Williams because he was doing a gig for the Princess Trust. Now, Robin Williams had no idea who he is. So we used to call Tony Allen the godfather of alternative comedy because he was the godfather of alternative comedy, you know. But Robin had no idea who he is and just destroyed him.
Really?
And made Tony like, sort of a hero of the alternative, looked like a bit of a prick, really. You know, because everything Tony said, he just Robin Williams, and he just did his thing, a big laugh. And Tony, but it's Prince Charles, and he just, hey, Prince Charles. He had everything he shouted, he turned into like a routine. And in the end, a guy called Nick Revel, who's a good friend of mine, he just said, "Oh, shut up, Tony." And all the comics go, "Yeah." And I think Tony to his credit afterwards, and Robert, I think he shook his hand and said, "It's great to meet you." So it was. So he was a comedian's comedian, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, okay, so that was the first part of the question. Second part of the question is what they were talking about was that they had the kind of the expert of this kind of disease on, and they said that in the autopsy, it was the worst example they'd ever seen of this disease, that it was just so widespread throughout his brain.
Yeah.
And what they were saying was that the plasticity of the mind, of the brain, is kind of super important when it comes to kind of mental health and disease. And so the more intelligent someone is, the greater chance they have of adapting, changing, and coping.
Okay.
And what they're saying was that, you know, he was a genius, and obviously it was very much taken from the point of a loving kind of point of view of Robin Williams. His wife was heavily involved in the documentary, so obviously they're not going to. It's everything was quite sugar coated, but the doctor was saying Robin Williams was absolute genius, like off the scale, the ability to connect synapses and parts of the brain, blah blah blah. And this was maybe something to do with why he managed to get as far as he did with the disease before it had that fatal effect. And certainly, it's not curable disease. Everyone dies from it in one way or another. So to bring it back to karate. I'm thinking, where the hell is this question? But it's just interesting. We don't have to talk about karate.
And I'm intrigued. You know, go on.
Well, so like it got me thinking, because I wrote an article ages ago about kind of, you know, the connectivity in the brain and like the over repetition of certain actions can cause kind of a breakdown in neurological pathways. So, for example, someone who throws darts gets dartitis. Someone who the yips or whatever it's called. Whereas, like my argument was that you'd never get that in karate because because we're never doing anything the same twice. You're never kind of just refining, that kind of one movement because the whole connective chain, there's an infinite amount of possibilities. So everything's kind of unique. You never do oizuki and then the next oizuki is identical. That never happens. Everything is kind of like almost freeform at a certain level, even when you're learning, because you never the instructor's always saying, no, keep your head straight, or, back tailbone tucked in, or, blah, blah. There's an infinite amount of possibilities producing an infinite amount of conclusions. So nothing's ever the same. So you never have that kind of absolute movement like you would in darts or in golf or plus like that. And I was wondering, is comedy the same?
Okay. There is the problem with comedy and performing arts. It's famously when people do plays, like, have you ever been in a play? Plays, we could get because the plays say the same thing every night. And if you ever do a play for like more than like a week, you start messing around with it.
Yeah.
And it kind of becomes, I think in the Canterbury Tales on tour one time, and directors hate it. The directors, tell you off. And we go, right, tonight you've all got to say banana at some stage. So it's a standard sort of thing. Yeah, so basically, I think everything becomes stale otherwise. So in any creative art, like say, as a comedian, there's a tell me, you become a hack comedian. Like, when we all do, because you do 300 gigs a year, you've got to make a living. But the trick is you never do the same show twice. It may seem like the same show twice. It may seem like the same Oyazuki twice, but you have to sort of mix it up. So I would think it is. I mean, I'm not sure there's some comics who like the one-line comedians who do the one lines.
Yeah.
So I can't. I always find that was the hardest form of comedy. Do you remember Bob Newhart, the driving instructor? He was really interesting because he made a comedy album, which was great, but it was like a sketch in a camera with down in a microphone, and then he put him on a tour of nightclubs in America, and it was like disastrous because he just had this sketch thing, so he couldn't work the room, couldn't do anything. So I think what you're saying is, it's Anaximander, the pre-Socratic philosopher, says you never cross the same river twice because everything's changed. I think so. Like when you say, if you do karate trying to do exactly the same Oyazuki every time, so the AKA rigid syllabus type of karate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I suppose then you get. I think is moribund. Is that the word? You don't want anything to become moribund. You want it to become fresh and alive.
Yeah.
So, I as a club comic for 20 years, I definitely went through stages of dialing in shows really, and being or doing 3 shows a night. But I'd like to think you always try to, because of the audience, each show was slightly different. Often it was terrible because the audience were drunk, but it never felt like exactly the same.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think like all you're doing is like confirming my kind of belief that I think. Well, so I'll skip on to my kind of. What's the second question?
Okay. I'll add one more thing. When I used to compare the Comedy Store, when I was on really good form, I could compare the Comedy Store and make it all up on the night, and they were my best nights. And I'd come off and have to put the next act on, and the other comic would say, I've never heard all that before, and I had no idea what I said.
Really?
Just they were the nights when I should have recorded because I was just this didn't happen for long, but there were a couple of nights I'd come home and I'd do 2 shows a night, and it became like I said, well, I'm not going to do any material, and they were the best nights ever.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So I suppose that So
one of the other things he said, like, because there was a lot of kind of like footage of Robin Williams, and one of the things he said you should be brave and curious rather than fearful and suspicious. And I thought that was really, really nice way of well, I mean, it's kind of like a bit of a tagline, but I think that is what we are in many ways. Like it's so easy, especially when you get into a position of, like, you're talking about him, Robin Williams, and meeting you, and he's famous, and he's kind of he's top of his game.
One of the best comedians in the world. Yeah.
Sorry?
He's one of the best comedians in the world.
Yeah, but I think it's easy then to be fearful and suspicious, right? Because you've got so much to lose. Whereas he was obviously the opposite. He was curious about you and brave in the sense that he'd go out first, or he was brave in the sense that he was trying material out in front of a room full of comics and celebs and all that kind of stuff. I think, but I think also, as a kind of really understanding really understanding kind of like, or really trying to make sure that you are constantly kind of refining what you're doing is put yourself in those kind of perilous positions and being brave enough to put yourself in those perilous positions. And when you do that, then you hit your flow, then you hit your form, then you hit that kind of moment of just pure kind of zen when you get onto stage and you kind of do a killer set without any material, or like I get up and have no idea what I'm going to teach, and then teach for 2 hours and people go, that was the best class I've ever done in my life type thing.
Yeah, it's also, I think that fits well with kata. Like you should say, no kata should ever be the same. Well, if your kata is ever the same, is it?
Yeah.
The use of kata has to be the kata of the moment. And I think the longer you do karate, the more you should own your kata, and make it exciting and yours, and not by the book. Shuhari.
Yeah.
I think that's it. But I mean, I think lots of the time in karate, you're just trying to do it right. For low grades and beginners, you're just trying to do it right, aren't you? You're still stuck on that form.
Yeah, I think so. But I think like my biggest issue is that like people are trying to do it right, and for sure from beginner to showdown, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to just get it right. But I think people well, it's twofold, it's double-fold really. It's like it's instructors who are forcing their students to kind of do it right. You must do it this way, even though the showdown, nidan, maybe even sandan, well, even higher grades, right? But then also equally important is that's reinforced by the students who are super hard on themselves, going, oh, I must try to do that technique like my instructor. The instructor's saying you must do it like this, and they're equally saying, oh, I must do it like that. And I think that's really kind of, I think that the students really need to take a little bit more self-ownership at a certain time.
I'll tell you what, this is quite good because this segues into another question I had. I've been reading about Funakoshi's 20 principles. I was going to ask you about. And principle number 19 is never forget your own strengths and weaknesses, the limitations of your body, and the relative quality of your techniques, which is basically keep on thinking about training. Don't get stuck in doing it the same way, and recognize yourself, to know yourself well and know how you can improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And know, I think that for me, that speaks to kind of find your own karate. What are your own unique individual? What are your own unique individual strengths and weaknesses, and work on your weaknesses and know your strengths rather than trying to emulate someone at the top of the dojo.
Well, in terms, for me, when there was definitely a lot of my comedy was influenced by Robin Williams. And shortly after I did that thing with him, I used to get I had a radio mic. I was the only one on the comedy set with a radio mic, and I used to work just no microphone, running around. Probably overdid it, running around into the room, but it was a really interesting sort of way to go, because I used to go on and get the mic, put it down, and go bang into the room. Yeah. And that was just again pushing myself and being, not trying to be Robin Williams, but nicking a bit of what Robin Williams did. I mean, I think lots of people in karate want to be someone, like I used to want to be Terry O'Neill, or maybe when you were a kid you wanted to be Kato Sensei, or or I wanted to be Bruce Lee. I think that's a common thing, and a lot of beginners want to be black belts, like in the dojo, don't they?
I don't know, actually. I don't know if I ever wanted to be. See, the thing about, like, when I came through the grades, like when I came through the grades, I was with Cobra Kai, which then became JKA GB under Kato. It was always the Kato Sensei.
Oh, it's Kato.
Yeah, and so we never really had those really super high-profile Western instructors. So we did have really good senior instructors, and my instructor Howard Milson, my original instructor, one of the funniest guy I know. I mean, just hilarious. And so I wanted to be as funny as him. don't be doing that.
No, is this why we used to be friends?
Yeah, what do you mean we used to be friends?
Have you met, who is this guy? Go and have a drink with him.
He's dead now.
All right.
No, he's not. He's not. um, no, I mean, I thought the world of Howard. I think the world of Howard, and we were still there.
Sorry, go on. Didn't you want to be Kato Sensei? Didn't you model yourself on him?
No,
no,
not at all. So I wanted to be as funny as Howard when he taught, and I wanted to be as innovative as Kato Sensei when he taught, and I wanted to have the technique of Brian Woods, who was.
I've got a question about him in a minute.
Okay, so Brian was same physicality as me in terms of size and kind of body build and flexibility, and just an amazing technique. So I wanted his technique, and I wanted Howard's funny kind of teaching approach, Kato Sensei's kind of teaching innovation. And like in Japan, I had. I wanted to steal elements of Kagawa Sensei, steal elements of Yogi Senpai. There was all these elements that I wanted to, but I never wanted to emulate any of them. I never wanted to be that person, if you know what I mean. So I never had that.
I did very definitely. I think maybe because in the KGB you had all these big characters, and also because I wanted to be Bruce Lee. So
Yeah.
I always had an impossible role model for a long time.
Yeah.
Which maybe was useful because it made me like trying to lift weights and try to stretch and stuff.
Yeah.
But it always made me. I wasn't trying to be me. I was trying to be, someone else.
Yeah. Oh well. Did we? I don't know whose question this was.
Yeah, the answer is yes. You have to constantly try and develop. Don't stand still, and trust in yourself. But the problem is, I mean, I'll lead into my question now. I'll do the Funakoshi one. Is to some extent karate in the 21st century, you can kind of be deluded. So, Funakoshi, for example, says, this sounds very outdated now. So precept 15, regard your hands and feet as sharp swords. Now, I understand what that means, but do you think in the 21st century most karateka think of themselves that way? And is the modern karateka completely unrecognizable to what Funakoshi Sensei would see as a karateka?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is really outdated, and I would never consider myself or I never consider my hands and feet as sharp swords.
Hang on, I'm just going to comb my hair. Ow!
You've done it again.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That just came to me. Thank you, Robin. No, but do you know what I mean? I mean, because it's almost a bit like mystique of people still. I mean, I understand. Think of yourself. Think you should be able to deliver effective technique.
Yeah.
Well, I think people fall. It's like I'll finish in a minute. It's like a refuge for scoundrels in some way, using this empty sort of rhetoric. But they talk about what the masters said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to read. Well, I will read a lot into what that could mean, but I don't want to. I don't want to say that this is what Funakoshi Sensei maybe meant, because who knows what he meant. Maybe it was just a thing he wrote, and it was just one of those things that sounded good. And because shito means literally a limb of like katana. The sword of katana means the arm of a katana is shito in Japanese. So he's like make your shito like a sword. Maybe it was just like one of those vocab things that fitted together. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. But like, if I look at that, I think, well, if you think about the highly polished blade, Japanese blade, the best blade in the world, folded 400 times to make it the strongest steel, highly polished, sharpest, razor sharp kind of cutting edge. Like, he could be saying, or at least what I would take from it, I don't want to say what he was saying, but what I would take from that is that, make your body into a highly polished tool, highly polished, trained tool that can be used as a weapon, of course, but it can also be used for a whole variety of things. There's a whole variety of karate, healthy, health, karate for health, or karate for kind of just longevity, karate for Budo, karate for self-defense, karate for sport. You can use karate for anything because it's a tool and not a specific kind of, it's not a weapon. Like a gun is a weapon, but a knife is a tool because it can be used for a whole host of things. So I think I would take that from it. That for me, that means you must train and develop and polish the tool that is your body.
Yeah, well, you see, I mean, the last one, polish, is the interesting one, and this is kind of where I'm going really. I think with training with Rick Jackson, the best thing that's happened to me this year, really, apart from physically training with Rick last year, was doing sitting with Zen. And his 20th precept is continually polish your mind. And I kind of think, as an old duffer like me, it's sort of, that is the most useful thing, this useful precept that I've neglected for a long time. And I like the idea of this Tanren Shugyo, polishing your body. But ultimately, I think the polishing your mind is in these days the most useful thing that we can do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think not only in these days, although I think like the COVID has caused a whole load of self-reflection, right? So which then forces and also limits our ability to train and blah blah blah, and so forces us down that path. But I think we've all met and seen karateka, your former idols who haven't done that and have just constantly trained their body. Like I was cycling. I went over to the dojo today, and nowadays I cycle to the dojo a lot. Well, most of the times, and I was cycling there and back, and I always going to the dojo is fine. It's always slight downhill, and coming back is always kind of obviously uphill. And I always push it, like just cycle. And I go, why the hell am I sometimes? Why the hell am I doing this? But I really love that feeling in my legs.
I'm the same when I run cycle. I run fast.
Yeah,
as fast as, I like that feeling.
Just that burning kind of power of your body, and that's kind of really seductive. And it's something that I've done. I'm 48 now, so it's something that I've done the vast majority of my life. Kind of just trained, and but at some point, I got kind of realize that it's really seductive, really alluring, but it's at some point not great. At some point,
you can still do it. I mean, you can still do it. But I find, now sitting in Zazen, incredibly challenging. As Rick says, this is harder than karate.
Yeah.
And I sat the other day on my own, and it was a real strength of you have lots of little smiles because your mind is playing tricks on you.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating and really useful.
I mean, I don't for a moment want to imply that there will be a point where I won't physically train hard, but
you're going to slap.
No, but at the same time, you got to realize that there is another, as Rick says, another wheel to turn, and there is another element that you have to add to it, and because if you do physical exercise, that release of endorphins and just those feel good hormones kind of makes you feel good. It is kind of like it is your drug pushing body saying, oh, do more of this, when actually sometimes just sitting, doing nothing, polishing the mind is far more beneficial, just kind of far more difficult as well. I
mean, what I've found is with Rick over the weeks is now I the first 10 minutes are really hard, maybe, and then after that I do have only brief moments of it being okay, very brief, but definitely a little bit of oh, she's good, oh, I can't buy, but I can bring back. It's like monkey mind, and I'm kind of addicted to it now because it's kind of, I get it now, but the first 15 minutes are horrible. When I run now, I always start off slow running and just get warmed up, like karate training. Once I get warm, I'm okay. I can't just blast into it anymore. But my question or your question? Do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want my question or your question?
Well, I think it's my turn.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay. So
death and brain damage.
Sorry.
Is it about breath and death and brain damage?
No. Yeah. That's the next one. That's the last one. Okay. So I don't know if we talked about this before, and I was talking to it about it to Ross and Rue, and also a few of the ladies that train, and they're like, don't talk about it, Scott, don't talk about it. It's too kind of it's too dodgy to, and you'll be vilified. But okay, I'm going to talk about it because we're
You're
very
asking me. Go on.
So it's two white middle-aged men. Let's talk about women teaching karate. And so now don't be pretend sexist, because let me assure you, I've been pseudo-sexist, made some kind of like, kind of off-the-cuff remarks, all in jest, and was completely crucified for it. So
yeah, well, women teaching karate, you mean? Oh, yeah, no, all right. Okay, well, this is a great question.
So, I haven't asked it yet.
All right.
Now, listen. This is the thing. This is the thing that I was going to get into trouble with by mentioning it, but I'll mention it anyway.
Okay.
One of the things, like I've always had, up until Palmer sadly passed away, I've always had female instructor in my dojo.
Yeah.
So from day one. So basically, like for the last 18 years, 19, it'll be 19, 18.5 years, I've always had a female instructor, either assisting and then taking classes when I wasn't there. And 3 years ago, Palmer sadly passed away. And since then, we haven't, but our plan is to have one maybe in the next year or so. And the reason why is because they brought to the dojo an element that men struggle to bring. Now, that's not to say that men don't have attributes that would be classically considered female. Of course they do. And that's not to say that women don't have attributes that are classically considered male, because of course they do. But for example, the most aggressive people in the world are men.
No, they're not. They're not men. They're not. They're not. I'll do you.
Just let me set the groundwork so that I'm not crucified. I'm just trying to, as politically correct as possible, set the groundwork. So the most aggressive people in the world are men. That's not to say there aren't aggressive women, because of course there are. But in a spectrum, the most extreme is men, and the most extreme nurturing people in the world are women. That's not to say there aren't caring, nurturing men, because of course there are. But on a spectrum, women are there. So my thing is that having a female instructor in the dojo, of course I have instructors that are very caring and nurturing, but they bring that kind of, they balance the dojo much better. What I feel, what I want to talk about is, sometimes do you think that women feel that they need to emulate their instructor, which probably be a man, or even worse, kind of focus on what would be considered male attributes in order to be able to instruct? So I know of a fairly famous female instructor who apparently, I've never trained with her, but apparently is a complete and utter monster. Shouts, berates, screams, and is really hard on students. And I wonder if she, maybe that's who she is, or does she feel that she needs to do that in order to succeed in a male-dominated world? What are your thoughts?
Okay, yeah, really good question. So I started karate in 1974, right? So basically, women didn't do karate, really. There was Sandy Hopkins, who was Steve Cattle's partner, and she was good. And I remember someone called Yvonne Lovelady at Steve Cattle's Kirkdale dojo, who was really good at kumite and punched me in the face and just got me with kumite. Yeah. And so the women in them days were like gender neutral. They were just good, but there was only about 5 or 6 of them. But they generally weren't. I really probably can count on one hand women who had black belts who I knew. There was a couple in Liverpool, and then I went to Marshall Street, and there was some good women there. Marjo, who's my friend, you know, she was, again, gender neutral, just good at karate. I mean, it didn't really matter if her sex was irrelevant as far as I was concerned. She was just, you know, she was really good at karate, and, you know, again, my mate. But I found since HDKI days, the best in the best people coming through are all women. So we've just done HDKI GB have just done Students of the Year award. I did it based on COVID, how people reacted. And these were people who came to nearly all your courses, came to all of my Zoom classes, went to Paul Owen's classes, and just did everything. And there was Maurice, Natalie, Eden, through all women. Just that the most serious students at the moment in HDKI GB, as far as I'm concerned, are women. And I think that's great. And they are doing it very much on their own terms, I would say. I wouldn't say any of them are trying to machismo, or Chrissy Howard and Andrea Carbon, who are just running their club, basically just running it as Karate Cat.
Yeah.
So I you know, it's almost, is it gender neutral the right word to say? They're just, as far as I'm concerned, they're just good club instructors.
Yeah.
So I you know, as someone who manages this, you know, in Britain, the people who come across as very serious are, you know, a lot of them are women. And certainly student-wise, the most serious students, I would say, in the past year for us have all been women. You know, who've attended all the courses. Even in my dojo, I mean, you know, the black belts, John and Paul, have obviously done everything. But there's also my Q grade women have been there more than anyone else. So I think the time is changing, and I don't see any particular modeling of them for male karateka. I think they're just doing karate because they love it and they're dedicated and strong.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, Amanda Gisby's the same. I mean, she's just dedicated to karate.
Yeah.
Their sex is irrelevant really to me, and I wouldn't say, like, say Chrissy Howard or Andrea. I wouldn't say they're like gentle. I just think they're just proper karate instructors.
Yeah.
And I think really positive, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, you know me. I mean, my kind of thing is you're either serious or not serious. I don't care, you know, and we know we have in HDKI, and also we know when I went to America, the people I met there, ISKF people or HDKI people, they're just serious karate.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a good thing. I suppose I slightly worry for you know, I feel male instructors are falling behind a little bit. You know.
Yeah, I think.
Well,
I think, like, certainly, in today's world, you can't get away with just screaming and berating.
No.
And also, obviously, demonstrably, it doesn't really produce results. I mean, we look at kind of organisations where that is the dominant form. Well, really, the historical, you know, organisations which like have had lots of members and still, because of historical reasons, still have lots of members. And it doesn't, I don't think it necessarily means that they produce much better results. It's just by numbers they produce results. And so I think, like, as a HDKI in many ways is punching above its weight. And I think the reason why we're producing kind of good students, or, you know, like good groups good dojos, is because historically we have no history. We have no massive amount of numbers coming through.
We just have history. We have history.
Yeah. No, I don't mean that. I just mean that we're not an organisation that has, you know, like, for example, in the UK, it's not, the HDKI is not an organisation with 200 dojos.
No.
You know, but so we're having to kind of make sure that we're doing everything the best we possibly can in order to get the results. So having nurturing dojos that actually take people on board and teach them well, and make sure that we're teaching them good karate but being kind, I think means that we're having dojo heads that are like that. So I don't think there's any male instructors in the HDKI anywhere that just berate people, right? And shout at people.
No. I think maybe Rick Jackson Sensei is a good example of, because Rick in the dojo is very scary. You've trained in a dojo.
Yeah.
But I mean, he plays that card really, really well because he's a very funny, wonderful man. But like I remember, when I taught in Denmark with you and Rick's Hotland Sensei, I thought, well, I'm going to do the hard class then, because I just think, because I know what you're going to do. So I mean, there's a time and a place for that, but none of us are. That's the drill sergeant karate doesn't work. Harder, faster, stronger. We laugh about it all the time. But the truth is, there are still people who do that. It's like Cobra Kai, almost like harder, faster, stronger. Those days are gone. And also, like in the way of nurturing, I'm a nurture teacher. To bring out the best in people is to praise them, not to constantly, I'm sure you did in Japan. No one ever said to you, "Oh, well done," did they?
No.
I Marshall Street, I never got a compliment. You never got a compliment at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Kagawa's got his, he's got his new book out, which I read recently, and it's like him being nice. So the world has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, Noida Sensei, God rest him, but his classes were terrifying.
Yeah.
Because JKA was terrifying because you were just scared all the time, and that's a really bad way to learn because you're scared of making a mistake.
Yeah.
And there is a time for that, but I think the future of karate, and some of the best karate we see at the moment is done by women, and I would certainly say that for kata performance.
Yeah.
I actually think I prefer women's kata to men's kata, really.
Yeah.
Because it's more nuanced, it's more timed, and it's far more controlled, and it hasn't got all that testosterone going through it. So I know you will have a female, instructor, and there's no karate organization in the world, as far as I know, or no major one that has a female chief instructor yet. But yeah, but that's only because it's the daughter of the boss.
Yeah.
And if but no, it's a good question and it's really important. But I think from my slightly older perspective than you, the world has changed. From a dojo with no women in, or maybe a couple of women in, or a woman who was a sort of, I mean, I've got a good friend who's very good at karate, good friend of mine, very high grade for a Japanese group, and she's the tea lady, and she's 6 dan, and she never gets invited to do a course. And when they have a meeting, she gets to put the kettle on, and I love it a bit, and I tell her, don't do that. And we will never do that. Yeah. But also, we are I'd like to think it's kind of gender blind. Just be good, be serious and be good, and not we don't care who they are, as long as you're serious and good. And
also be good for their own strengths. It's not about being good because you can beat up anybody, because that's again a very maybe quite a gender. It's not a very gender specific, but quite a gender specific. So it's about kind of different strengths, isn't it? And certainly all our senior female instructors throughout the world in HDKI, they're all having their unique strengths that we draw upon. I was just thinking that. Sorry, go on. Sorry. Just like we draw upon the unique strengths of the men as well. I mean, I think so. At the moment, we've managed to talk about this without kind of stepping on in any kind of or any landmines. But so maybe we should move on. But
just go with one example. Denise Bradley Sensei from Tennessee.
Yeah.
I met her, and really nice dojo, great students, really beautiful Southern manners students, and then I talked to her afterwards. She trained with Nishiyama. She had a scrapbook out, trained with Noida. Just great pedigree. Well, Denise, and it's just like, wow, but really modest, and no stage until afterwards, which having a meal afterwards, did I know she trained with Nishiyama, senior grade with her, done karate for ages and ages. Really, really nice, really nice. So I reckon we in HDKI we don't need to worry about that. It will happen, and I know there will be a Hombu Dojo female instructor coming through, because you got them girls coming through anyway.
Yeah. Caitlin will be hopefully next.
Yeah, it will happen. And then when that happens, I'm going to start chasing the men, going, "Come on, men, put your finger out."
Yeah. Okay.
All right, good question. All right, go on.
No, it's your turn, I think.
Right. Do you want a technical question or a sort of a personality question?
Technical.
Okay. So I've been thinking a lot recently about Ippon kumite and Gohon kumite, mainly because today I did a Zoom Q grade examiners test today for a change, because I've done some emails ones, and Zoom was quite a great way to do an examiners test, because you can see I said do that, do this, and then we talked about Ippon kumite, and I remember you telling me, and when you were in Japan, you never did Ippon kumite.
Once, did it once.
Yeah, I think I never did it. I never did bunkai. I never did. I did, but you did Gohon kumite every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, I grew up with Ippon kumite. Started to get very complicated, and someone would attack you and stay there, and then you do like dum 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 sweep boom boom.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Ippon kumite for the syllabus, and is it still relevant to karate today? And supplementary question: what is the importance of Gohon kumite? And we'll talk about that a bit. Is that all right?
Okay. Yeah. So I think both Gohon and Kyo Nippon kumite are still really relevant. First of all, Kyo Nippon kumite, all that kind of like you know, I used to do the same when I first learned it. You know, superficial kind of flowery defenses whilst the person just stood there. I think there's no skill set. Yeah, no skill set whatsoever. You know, I mean, I think sometimes it's quite useful if you're doing ashibarai, like the whole variety of ashibarais that you can do from Kyo Nippon, just to kind of teach the students to the structure of the stance and what part of the stance is vulnerable from different angles. So sometimes I teach that, and that's as kind of flowery as Kyo Nippon comes. But like if I ever teach Kyo Nippon kumite, which I still do, you know, then I
have to for the syllabus. You know, before a grading, I'll go through it.
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, just block counter. Block.
I like one.
Yeah. Block counter with a punch. Block counter with a kick. That's it. And secondly, I like the idea that okay, someone's coming in straight. Okay, so someone's coming in straight at you, and you're here, and they're coming down. They're coming to attack you, and you can step back, or you can step to the side, or you can step this way, or you can step 45 degrees or 45 degrees, or you can even step 45 degrees in 45. So you think about it as an arc of possibility of where the attack is coming from. And so what I teach is that the like Gohon kumite is set. Yeah, we'll maybe talk about this in a minute, but you go in, you're set, right? Like through the 5 movements. Whereas Kyo Nippon is on a basic level is set, just one step. But then it's broken. So it can be broken by the defender by stepping off to the side, so it's not set anymore. It can also be broken by the attacker because they can make a long step in, for example. So it's that bridge between the set kind of distance of Gohon kumite and the dynamic distance of Ippon kumite, which is constantly, you know, two shoulder or 2 arms length away, and one person attacks, one person defends, goes back to attack, and then defends again. So that is very fluid. Ippon kumite, Gohon kumite is very set, and Kyo Nippon is set but broken at times. And so, and be able to block and counter with skin touch in that dynamic, but only once.
Yeah, like, I think that's the key with me. Is I mean, I think it's almost a cultural thing. I think Ippon kumite is very Japanese, isn't it? It's ichigo ichie, bang bang, finish.
Yeah.
It's bang, hang on a minute. Oh God, sweet. Oh, boom, boom.
Yeah. So I think that skill set as a bridge between the learning and understanding distance in Gohon kumite and learning and understanding distance in a much more kind of dynamic way in Ippon kumite, that's the gap.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect stepping stone to basically Ju kumite.
But also, like a Dan grade Ippon kumite should look different from a Q grade Ippon kumite, which shouldn't necessarily be more complicated. It should be far more. It should be. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to grab his hand, I'm going to assure him and wash him, I'm going to sweep him, I'm going to. You know, it's much more nuanced. Which is, I mean, I love both of them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, my thing is, I think our limitations extend us. This is kind of my theory. And I mean, I love Gohon kumite. I used to hate it, but I love it because you have to work within the perimeters of that, and that makes it really exciting. And then Ippon gives you that, like exactly what you said, that extra chance to change the nuances of it.
Yeah.
Because I tell you why, because I did Gohon kumite today, just part of the thing, and I looked up your Gohon kumite YouTube clip, and you have a great line that Gohon kumite is a really useful kumite if you do it properly.
Yeah,
I think that's the problem is, if you do it properly, it's really difficult for the attacker and the defender, and you can't sleepwalk through it, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like when I was in Japan, we used to do Gohon kumite almost every day, and it was
which is horrible.
Yeah, it was probably the most dangerous part of the instructor's training.
Yeah. It was horrible.
At no point in any other training or any other kumite training would you stand in front of someone, Kagawa, Yamaguchi, whoever it was, whoever it was, and not be able to move until they attacked you.
Yeah.
It's in the extreme the most dangerous.
Yeah.
But
it's when Kion meets Kumite, and but I always try. I love that. It's real karate, because all you can do is agiyuki. The attack only attack whenever they feel like it. They can attack, and it should be dispassionate. They shouldn't cheat. I mean, I hate it when people cheat.
Yeah.
It's like the attacker should almost do it with his eyes closed, their eyes closed, and do 5 best punches they can, and not give a damn whether you're there or not.
Yeah.
And your job is to react to it. I think it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But also waste of time if you cheat on it.
Yeah, we used to do Jordan there and back, Chudan there and back, Mai Geri there and back, Mawashi Geri there and back, change partner.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
Mai Geri is horrible.
Yeah, generally speaking, on the instructor's course, there'd only be kind of 4 of us. So I would do it with Yamaguchi, and like Yamaguchi's kind of punches like sting you, and so Jordan there and back, Chudan there and back, Mai Geri there and back, Mawashi Geri there and back, change with Inada, Jordan there and back, Chudan there and back, Mai Geri, Mawashi Geri there and back, change. Last one, Kagawa. And then Kagawa says his punches like, well, okay, he's very fast. Kagawa says he was very fast, but I could generally speaking get out the way for his punches. But then his Mai Geris would come, and he just have these extendable Mai Geris, and you go to block, and it's like just impossible. And then his Mawashi Geri. So the last one, I was always with Kagawa says at the end, and so bear in mind we've done 4 sets with one person, then another 4, and then so this is the 12th. This is the 12th set of Gohon kumite non-stop with Kagawa sensei and doing Mawashi Geri. And you're blocking Uchuke and you block it, and you just like your Uchuke arm against his Mawashi Geri. Oh, God, like
but his Mawashi Geri would come down like that as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And it just seemed to extend. Well, everyone's seen him kick. He just like because he's only small, but like he just had this massive extension with his Mawashi Geri. Hard, and standing there until he moved, and you're waiting for the next kick to come, and then you go. Just anyway. Yeah,
but the thing about it's like a moment of truth, isn't it? I mean, there's going back to my earlier thing was modern karateka. You can there's like a certain fiction to it because we're doing lots of key on it. I think Gohon kumite. You do Gohon kumite with anyone, and you'll know the level. You'll also know if they're a bit of a prick, and you'll also know they're a bit of a softie. I mean, it's a great sort of test of character, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I kind of love it, because some people make well, I believe we should do more of it, but I think the problem is with Ippon kumite, it's kind of being lost into once it gets complicated, I just switch off. I'm just not interested. Because no one's ever going to stand there like that. That's when I get annoyed.
Cool.
Yeah, we sorted that out then. Good answer.
Yeah.
I like Yeah, when if we ever get back to the dojo, I'm gonna do Moshikari's Gohon kumite.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
I think we have maybe time for one more question each.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, my next question is a short, nice, personal one. Yeah.
Okay, so okay.
Is this the somber one?
No, well, I've got 2 questions left. So if we get both questions in, we'll see how the time goes. But okay, no, this is a little bit. Okay, lockdown number 3. Why is this harder? We've got light at the end of the tunnel. The vaccines are not only on the way, they're here. Okay, so it's and we know it's going to be shorter than from the first lockdown for sure. Why are people struggling harder with this lockdown?
Yeah, that's a very good. I mean, I had a word with myself the other day because I was really, really fed up, really stressed, really fed up, and and I think maybe it's post-Christmas, and I think maybe psychologically we think, oh, it'll be over after Christmas, and we should all see it coming, and it probably feels like. I think we all think it's all going to be over by March. In my mind, I decided it'll all be over by March. And then suddenly this happens. And you think, wow, there's a variant. It's not going away.
Yeah.
And, so there's no end in sight. So I definitely lost a load of gumption this week. And then, I think, is it Wednesday? I was really fed up Wednesday. Just, not done any training, not done anything. I had a big bar of chocolate and just got fed up. So I think it's facing that. It's not over. Yeah. And the end of the year is the end of the year. New start. Suddenly, new year, everything's going to be good. Ooh. And then suddenly, back on Zoom. I'm zoomed out. But, I mean, you've been great. You've really just said, "Sod it, let's do Zoom," and you have to. And I've had loads of messages of my students going, "What are we going to do?" And and we can't really do outdoor training. We can't do outdoor training. And if we could, the weather's going to be horrible.
Yeah.
So I think it's that, Zen the art of motorcycle maintenance gumption trap. It's just caught at a low where you want something, a new start, and we can't have a new start.
Yeah.
I mean, you've typically bounced back quite strong really on it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you have to.
Well, yeah, what choice do we have? I mean, that's not to say that I don't feel exactly how you felt. It's difficult, and quite a few of the commentators have said it's a virus. It doesn't know it's the 1st of January. It doesn't know.
Also, the weather hasn't helped because I mean, I distinctly remember doing morning training with you guys, and then going out and sitting in my garden in the sunshine having a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And then doing, when I got ridiculously fit and doing all my running and training, it was easy because the weather was nice. And now it's horrible. It's cold and it's wet, and everyone has that winter blues anyway. So it's like it's a perfect storm of negativity.
Yeah.
So new start banned, weather horrible, hibernating weather. What are we going to do? And probably Brexit and Trump hasn't helped, and the
the world Trump this week.
Oh yeah, but also it's the same for everybody because we've got HDKI friends all over the place. I've got some friends in Spain, and our Spanish HDKIs are fantastic. They're all just fed up.
Yeah.
So that's the short answer. It's just because everything's a bit crap.
Yeah.
And I think going back to Rick again, one of the things of Rick is your whole reality is in this 7 inches of your head. So I had a bad day Wednesday, and I decided on Thursday I was going to be positive and okay. Mark Aurelius, make the best of every bad situation. And on Thursday I was okay, and now I'm okay. Like today, I went walking with my daughter today. You just have to see things for what they are, accept them, and. But we all have moments of I said to my daughter that I've lost my zen. I'd lost my zen, but I've got my zen back now.
Were they on the top of your head?
Yeah, somewhere in it. No, it's the tip of my nose.
But okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It was
So I mean,
good.
but you know, these are unprecedented times. So
Yeah.
and so God, you know, and these are tricky times.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah. Okay. You got a quick whimsical question?
I mean, you touched on it. I was thinking about unsung heroes. You know, again, we talk about role models and people are great at karate, but you know, the most people in karate, we don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And you know, I was just thinking, you know, you talked a little bit about Jim Woods, was it?
Brian Woods.
Brian Woods, yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I always remember you and Alan telling me how great he was. I mean, you know, just can you tell us any stories about, and I've got one, about unsung heroes of karate, kind of people who just do karate for their own sake, you know, rather than,
well,
maybe not instructors, but just do, you know?
I'll give you a story about Brian. Brian was unfortunately he's passed away now, but
quite young when he died.
Yeah, he was he 60? I'm not too sure. Maybe he died of lung cancer. Asbestosis, actually. He worked with asbestos, and anyway, he was far too young. But like, I remember the first time Kagawa Sensei came to York University with all the Teikyo University, and I was only 17.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic seminar. And Kagawa Sensei was at his peak. Geez, he must have been mid-30s, I would say. 30, maybe early 30s. And he was just at his peak, you know. And Brian would have been, he would have been maybe early 40s-ish, maybe mid-40s, a little older. But Brian was incredibly flexible, you know. Anyway, Brian and Kagawa were about the same height, and so Kagawa Sensei was doing his party trick, which is standing shoulder to shoulder, kicking someone in the back of the head, and he did it with such precision. And so he got Brian out, and Brian was standing shoulder to shoulder, and Kagawa Sensei was demonstrating. He was like, "Oh, you must kind of do this," and he did this beautiful moshigiri and just touched him perfectly, back of his head, boom. And it was like, "Oh, that's amazing, amazing." And Kagawa Sensei went to Brian, "You try, or something." Ramrod straight, not a move, donk, hit him perfectly. I mean, as good as, if not better, than Kagawa Sensei. And everybody was like, "Oh!" So Kagawa Sensei brought his leg up, kicked him, Jordan Mawashigeri, and then without putting it down, came back up and kicked him Uramaigeri just underneath the chin.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, "Oh, that's amazing." And like, I was only really, and Brian was like, Sensei gave him a deep bow. And I was only very junior, brown belt, 17, blah blah blah. But I was with one of my instructors, Howard, and was very, very close with Brian. And so I was with Howard and Brian afterwards. And Howard said to Brian, "You could have done that." And Brian said, "Yeah, but it wasn't my place."
Good man.
And I thought, you know what? I mean, it just stuck with me. I mean, like, geez, that was like 31 years ago. And it just stuck with me as being, classy, amazing, you know, wonderful. So yeah, he was definitely an unsung hero of karate. And a little bit more modern kind of. I was in Sweden. Geez, it wasn't last year; it was the year before now. I guess 2019. Walter Schleck, who is he German actually, but he's been living in Sweden for 40 years, 50 years. And he started one of the dojos in Sweden, and which is HDKI now. And for various political reasons, he was training in Stockholm, I think, and then he was traveling back home. He started teaching at his hometown. That dojo kept on going, and they were celebrating the 40th anniversary of the dojo, I think it was. I think it was 40th anniversary of the dojo, maybe 35th or 40th anniversary of the dojo. And political reasons, he had got to Nidan, decided never to grade. He's like, that's it. I think we're in a JK split, blah, blah, blah. I'm not, and people pulling him left, right, center. And he just refused to grade. That's it. I'm just going to teach. I do this for the love of training, and I do this for the love of karate. And he was just taught and trained for all these years. And then the dojo was given to Yuha. And although Walter is kind of like, now it was originally his dojo, Walter is like the backup instructor, but he's like 75. And just kind of was taking it easy, retired. Yuha taught most of the classes.
Still training.
Still training. Still really training. And just had that lovely quality to his karate. You know, no messing about, just nice, his own karate. And he decided to grade. He said, that's it. I'm going to grade. I'm going to grade. And I'd met him a couple of times, you know, and Yuha told me, oh, Walter's going to grade. I was like, really? I thought he wasn't going to grade anymore. Yeah, no, he's going to grade. He's going to grade. He's decided, like, the HDKI is who he wants to grade with.
Excellent.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so I was thinking, you know, he's 75 years old. He's been training.
What grade was he? What grade?
He was Nidan, and he was going to take Sandan.
Oh, Nidan. Okay. Wow.
He's been training for like 50 years or whatever it was, 45 years. And really nice karate. Really nice karate.
I like him.
Yeah. And so he got up and he was prepared to do everything, to do the whole Sandan syllabus.
Thanks, everyone,
do kumite, do all the kata and everything. I was like, okay, Walter Sensei, you know, I always called it Walter Sensei, okay. And he was like, great, do the Gohon. And I was like, okay, you know, what's your Tokui kata? And he was like, Hangetsu. Oh, okay, please, Hangetsu. And he did this lovely Hangetsu, you know, really nice. And I called him over, asked him a few questions. Oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Really nice kind of answers. And just, he was really, really kind of just good, you know, just good. I was like, okay, thank you very much. Relax. And he's like, really? Really? Okay. Like, walked off, you know. And then there was quite a few other people grading. So he called them out and lined them up and, okay, Shodan pass, Nidan fails, you know, blah, blah, whatever it was. Walter Sensei stepped forward. And all he's done is one kata at this point, you know. He's like, what the fuck, kind of thing. I was like, this is the 40th anniversary of your dojo, and you've dedicated your life to karate, really. And also, you're just one of those nurturing guys, and you know, all these students here really because of you, and you started everything, and really nice level of karate. You've made karate your own. You know, Sandan is like, that's not your grade. Gohon pass. And I gave him Gohon.
Yeah.
And all the HDKI Sweden people had agreed to it. They all knew it in advance. They all knew he was going to get it, and it'd make him probably, grade-wise, it'd make him the most senior in Sweden within the HDKI. Nobody cared. Everyone went, yeah, that's the right thing to do, you know. And it was lovely. And he was like, he was really upset. He was like, oh, Sensei, he was like, can I book you?
Pre-COVID, walk away, baby.
Yeah, pre-COVID, yeah. So, yeah, in terms of unsung heroes, people like that, decent, good people who have made karate their own, who have, you know, looked at their strengths and weaknesses, polished their mind, you know, been brave and curious and not fearful and suspicious, all the things that we talk about. People like that are what karate should be.
And also, you know, I love the idea, you know, I hate the idea, well, done with time, it's time to grade. Well, that time means nothing.
Yeah.
You're ready to grade. You're ready to grade.
Yeah.
There's one I just wanted to do this with my sort of unsung role model. There's a guy called Leon at Marshall Street, and Leon was like a real character, and he always wore a white belt. He wore a white belt, and he was dead good. And I got to know him a lot, and he was in the socialist workers a lot. He was an artist. He did cartoons, leftist cartoons, and he trained at the JKA in the 70s, and he got showed up with Nakayama Sensei. And he comes back to England, and of course, English politics, he applied for a license. Marshall Street was an organization, KGB. They sort of said, you've got to pay for your grade again. And he says, well, I got my showdown with Nakayama. I'm not going to. So he just wore a white belt, and he wore a white belt for 20 years at Marshall Street.
Jesus.
And you know, he was like, oh, it was difficult, but he was dead good. But really, his trash was really narrow, really narrow. Because also his wife was Okinawan.
Yeah.
For some reason, he did Hapkido in Okinawan, so he had no grade in Hapkido, but he was really good at it. And I used to love watching him because he had his white belt on, and he was really good at Gohon kumite. He had a really good Oyazuki. That was his best technique. And I don't know, he was like one of those unsung. And you know, I suppose he was karate. I think that's my thing I'm interested in at the moment. Is like some people just embodied karate. He didn't care about anything else. He had no interest in grades. Didn't care what belt he was, but he trained 3 times a week. And if you did Gohon kumite with you, and he said Jodan, it'd probably get you.
Yeah.
And he was a great sort of one of those guys who had no agenda, no anything, but he just loved karate. And, you know, I think, you know, I think we need more of them.
Yeah. Bill Rogers, for example.
Bill, there you go. Yeah. Anyone who doesn't know Bill is Sandan going on 9th Dan. Started karate in 1959. Trained with Vernon Bell. Trained at the Budokai with Anoya in the 60s with Kato, and is 10 years older than me. So he's 70.
Yeah.
And he's one of the best karate men I know, and no interest in. He is great. He does a mile of basics.
Yeah.
Matthew Last, our friend, he said I went training with Bill, and I met him in a field. He lives in Cambridge. We did a mile. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But also, Bill had a massive motorbike accident and nearly died. His heart stopped. And he said to me, last time I saw him, he goes, oh, you know, Sam, when I was in the hospital bed, I realized that you can take your shodan lying on the floor or lying in a hospital bed. Yeah, bunkai for lying on your bed, like deflecting blows. Like, hospital bed. But they're the people I like, you know what I mean? You know, like they just like all the people you've talked about is for the pure love of the art. And, you know, I think that is karate do, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, on that uplifting note, seems we've covered a few dodgy subjects.
We've done a lot of bad things, but it's been good. And I'm drinking champagne.
And I'm drinking low alcoholic. That's probably making this month far worse. Like no alcohol.
Well, it is alcohol, so it's cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, it's a 1.2%. 2 cans of 1.2% did it. So, that's all I needed.
Before you go, I need 2 bits of information. You are doing free Zoom classes for anyone?
That is correct. Free Zoom classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Irish time. DM me for details. Also, I think I'm doing. We're going to do some kind of. Okay. Here's the news. I haven't told you about this, Sam Sensei. We're going to do Keiko.
Yeah.
So I think the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st of January, 7 a.m.
Right.
Okay.
I better do this. I'm going to do it. What time does it finish?
7 till 8.
Right. Okay. I'm going to do it. I'll do it.
Okay. So 4 days. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to set up a charity page. So it'll all be for, because we always have a fundraiser. This is our fundraiser. It's going to be for cancer research. Rue, Ross, AJ, and myself are going to teach an hour each. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, finishing on the Sunday. And if anybody does it, we will send them certificates of completion.
I want that certificate.
Okay. So
that's my dojo will do it too.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that. That'll be free. Well, it'll be free, and then people can donate to charity. We're going to have a few more free events. I'm doing a free course for Roy O'Kane on 23rd, and then I think we're going to have a few seminars with interesting instructors in February. Not too many.
I was going to ask you. Yeah, can we get Morad Sensei again?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm planning. I've sent a few emails out. Leave it with me.
All right, yeah. They know the Kangaka one. I shall do it, and I'm going to get my Viking to do it.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, oh.
Kanpai.
I've run out for Kanpai. Cheers.
I'm drinking a bottle of champagne. I've got some left.
Go for it.
Yes.